Not only do we have one dinosaur, we have two prehistoric threats for this video. Don't big 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. So what in the world has happened out of this regional? Well, let me tell you. Kashtira is your most dominant force as per usual. I mean, how many times have we covered the fact that we have seen this deck kind of take over and do its thing? We might see some advantages shift in the future metagame here as we see the next round of decks kind of touch down here with Syac, but I think that that's got a little bit to be seen here. Now, what's most interesting about this event was we had two, and I mean two dinosaur players come out of nowhere here and actually shake things up. I have not seen dinosaur actually function and actually be a viable deck in quite some time, let alone some of the tech choices that when you get the chance to see these variants here that they really bring to the table. There's a lot of crazy ideas and things that are kind of circulating here as well. Now, we also had a Marincess player out of the top cut, and I think seeing Marincess get the chance to perform is not all that surprising. Water, at least in terms of Marincess developments, the deck has been relatively strong. As long as the deck has had the chance to figure out the tech choices and ratios that it wants to kind of bring to the table, it can usually be successful at the end of the day. And then we also had an ABC Thurion list. Now, Dulles never got back to me to showcase the list, so there's not really much I can do there, but that is one of the first ABC Thurion lists that we actually have on record actually being successful out here. So I think overall, when you're looking at the generalized metagame for this event, even though Kashtira was, by far your leading deck out here, I still think that it is pretty cool to see, how much the rest of the metagame is shaping up here. Let's pass on over to top deck list. Second place out of this event is none other than dinosaurs. You're going to look at this list and you're going to be like, we're doing this. Yes, we are. It has been quite some time since I'd actually really considered, playing a Sky Striker package in this deck, but engage into a free Hornet Drones makes the Kagari, which recurs back the Hornet Drones, which puts two monsters on the field. So let's think about the things that you can do here. As long as you get a scrap monster, you're good to go. You can start claiming. I feel like the whole purpose of this package is you get the ability to further link climb and kind of set things up. It's not like dinosaurs are particularly one of those decks in the room that a lot of people are going to really know how to handle in terms of matchup. Well, let's call that what it is. But in terms of developments, I mean, you have double Pterodon in here. No baby Cerosaurus. This particular build is emphasizing way more on the scrap package so that it can actually sit up and do, essentially full scrap combo. Getting full advantage off of this, it's really good. I mean, this build's also getting away with playing one Soul Eating over Raptor, which is also pretty crazy in and of itself. And then, of course, like again, basically these synchros right here are going to be things that are going to put you into a better position. Plus, with how the metagame's evolved, I mean, setting up a well-timed Apollosa to punish your opponent is going to seem relatively strong. We also have, I mean, more control-esque cards here. I mean, double Dark Hole Regeki, double Lightning Storm. You even have a Change of Heart in here. You're also sitting on, double Talents as well. And you can also Widow Anchor take something that the opponent has set up that looks like it could potentially be a threat to you. So you have enough mid-range control within this build that you shouldn't really have a problem with the overarching metagame. So very, very cool to see how tacked out this build actually is. Next up is Cash Money, Dollar Bills, the deck. Well, first thing that catches my eye down here is we do see Nightmare Corruptor Ibley in full fashion. I think the other thing I find massively hilarious about this in itself is so many people have cut Lingaribo at this point in time that this is just free real estate at this point in time. You're able to board this in against your opponent. You're probably going to win the game because, if they don't have the Lingaribo or something to kind of clean it up, it's all over for them. Gammas with the driver have become more standard as of late. The whole the whole post side, have disruption against your opponent feels actually very, very strong. Also, one Diabolsis, one Armed Dragon. Shout out to the Baron being usable now. And then Inintis and Garuda for the value off of, well, good old Riseheart. You've also seen the Skull Wagon show up in a couple of the side decks as well, which I think is kind of interesting in and itself. Next up here we have our secondary cash money dollar bills the deck. Now this is where you see the double thrust into the one evenly matched. I believe the last build was playing inversely double evenly matched. So you kind of take your pick with the development of how many evenlies do I want to play? Do I need to have access to more evenlies? It's honestly been kind of one of the biggest questions of the format for this deck. I also see that we are playing Triple Book of Moon for defensive options. We're just focusing on double Riseheart here as well. Typically 2 has ended up being the more go-to approach. Perfectly understandable. Outside of that, we're also only playing the one Ghost Mourner Moonlit Chill, which I think is fine. Also, double Talents into double Thrust I think works out particularly well. And we also have a small amount of Bysteel down here in case we need to have access to it, depending on the matchup. Very, very strictly depends on how the rest of the metagame has, once again, set up for your matchups. Next up here, we have Marin Says. Oh boy. You know what I always find very interesting about the Marin Says decks? It's always the ratios when you look at these lists. Dive started off as one of the best cards that we could ever hope for, but it being a once per turn, most builds are just like, you know, because of that once per turn, we're just only going to play 2, which I think is fine. Also, you still have the big giant argument of how many Paddle Oceans do I need to, you know, put into my deck? You know, what's going to be the best number? For the most part here, for most of the current builds, I think that 1 Battle Ocean has shaped up to be the way to go. I still am not going to take it away from the people that do want to play 2, because 2 Battle Ocean does ensure that, you know, if your opponent does play Cosmic Cyclone, you're not going to get totally blown out of the water, typically. I also see that we are playing the Contact Sea down here, just handing this to your opponent and watching them not be able to do anything. Thankfully that this being a level 6 is the big thing that really helps this card, you know, still maintain course in the metagame. And we're pretty hand-trapped out of our mind here. Also, most of your ratios for the Marin Says monsters are also fine. I don't think you're going to try to mess around with much more. I do also know that people try to some builds like 2-wave. I feel like if you're at a point that you need multiples of these, you found yourself in like a grind game scenario, and your deck needs to be able to quickly handle situations. And if you find yourself getting board broken, I mean, there's not really much you can really do at the end of the day there. Next up is our other dinosaur list. Now, looking at the differences between these two lists, the other package deck went back to the more combo-esque days where you would play the Sky Striker package, you'd play the Engage, and you would use that package to kind of try to climb up and do some bigger lines of play. Well, this build takes us back to the classic. We're going to rely on the field spell, and we're going to go ahead and, you know, pop off with the babies here and the Pterodon so that you can generate your combo advantage. That's the biggest thing. Also, handing your opponent a token that they can't do anything with, especially in your Kashtira matchup, handing your opponent a token that they can't really do anything with. I mean, obviously they can birth, normal summon, you know, and then not really care about it, but anytime that you can produce an inconveniencing-esque effect for your opponent, such as the Lost World, it is actually pretty strong. I see that we are also focusing on 2 Book of Eclipse for defensive options. Kind of need that. We're playing 1 Thrust, which is fine. I might have liked to have seen evenly matches in this build, especially when you want to go second. You can go above 40 in dinosaurs. There's nothing that really forces you too much to stick to commitment for that. I mean, obviously, 40 can feel a little bit better in terms of numbers, but you could have played 40 to put the evenlies in here, possibly round out your matchups. Harpy's Feather Duster in here is a nice tech choice. And then we have some Kurikaras here to kind of clean up the rest of the format in case things kind of start to be a little bit of a pain in the butt for you. You have a lot of very decent metagame coverage for this build. Actually, both dinosaur builds have a decent amount of coverage for what they actually want to cover. So that is our breakdown for the Stay Weird Gaming Regional. Holy moly. A lot of interesting things here. So please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.